Jimin! Why am I always screaming BTS names? Hey guys, so I wanted to make this video really quickly just because it's been a video that I think would be a topic of interest to some people. And I've been talking to a couple people who are like, oh, my friends might be interested in hearing about this and hearing my story. So today's video is going to be about getting a non-EPIK and non-talk teaching position in Korea, which I think a lot of people don't know about because one of the biggest things when you're thinking about getting a teaching job, teaching English in Korea is, oh, go through EPIK, or if you're in university, go through talk. But I'll tell you guys my story and tell you guys kind of how to find a job teaching here in Korea that isn't related to those two things. And I hope that I can kind of dispel any negative ideas around non-EPIK and non-talk teaching positions, because I know a lot of people think that EPIK and talk are great, and they are great programs because they're government funded, but I also want to emphasize the fact that there are so many other cool positions out there that are not related to those ones. So just a disclaimer, I woke up this morning and I had a massive cold. So my voice is kind of weird today. I might have to take breaks to drink some water. I have this huge thing of water here. Yeah, so if I seem kind of weird, if I don't seem as much energy as normal, that's because I'm sick. I had to teach today and I was sick and it did not go well. So here's hoping this goes well. Okay, so I made a list. Hi Jimin, this is my T-Money card. For those of you that don't know, T-Money is kind of like the transit passes here in Korea. So I got one of the, people are saying they're limited edition. I don't think they're limited edition. I've seen them a lot of places. I know people on Twitter are saying that they're all sold out. They might be sold out in Seoul, but in Suwon and in Incheon and in a bunch of places, you can still get them. So if you're coming to Korea within the next month, you might still be able to get them. So anyways, hi Jimin. But I made a list on my phone of all the things I wanted to talk about because this is pretty big. Okay, so me. As you guys may or may not know from my description, I am an EFL teacher in Korea. So basically what that means is I teach English as a foreign language to ages around 8 to 15-year-old students. So I work at what is called a hagwon, so kind of like an after-school academy in Korea. It wasn't my first plan, but it ended up being this way. So my job is basically to help students with their English that they've already learned at school, but kind of add more onto that. So I do make lesson plans, I do design my classes for my students, but it's a little bit different than a, say, elementary school, middle school, or high school teacher, just because my role is a little bit different. I wouldn't say it's the same as being a tutor, but I'd say it's a little bit different from being a full-on English teacher, which I was very thankful for. So I live in Suwon, and Suwon is kind of like, if Seoul is here, Suwon's just right here. It's right underneath Seoul. It's kind of like a satellite city. It's by a city called Yongin and by a city called Bundang. All of those cities are right underneath Seoul, so it takes me about an hour to get to Seoul from here by taking the subway. So the school system in Korea is a little bit different from where you might be coming from. I'm from Canada, so in Canada, I would want to say that anywhere from between 80 to 90% of elementary school, middle school, and high schools are all public. You, for the most part, do not have to pay to go to grade school if you are a domestic or permanent resident student. If you're an international student, it's a bit different. My boyfriend was an international student, so to go to our high school, he was paying quite a bit of money. So the way school systems work here is there is public and private schools. I don't know the exact percentage. All the schools here have uniforms, which I was thrown off by when someone was going to a public school but they were wearing a uniform, because in Canada that's not normally how it goes. But here they have both of those, and you can get teaching positions at either one of those. Public schools, though, are generally through programs like EPIK. EPIK is one of the best government funded programs because it puts you in public schools and it gives you a ton of training beforehand. And you can be in cities. You can be in cities like Seoul, you can be in cities like Busan, you can be in cities like Daegu. It just depends on your qualifications, and it depends on where the coordinators would think that you're a best fit. But for programs like Talk, you're generally in rural areas. Granted, this is not from my experience, this is from, I've had at least 5 to 6 friends that have done the Talk program, and rarely have they been exactly in big cities. I had a friend that worked really close to Daegu. I've had a friend that worked really close to Busan, but not in Busan. And then I've had friends who have wound up on the complete other end of Korea on the East Coast. I don't even know that area very well. So Talk is a little bit more rural. I have a friend right now, she is in kind of close to Seoul. I don't want to say it's super close to Seoul, but she's in a smaller community. And yeah, so that's kind of Talk. Talk wants to put you in the full Korean experience, which is great, which is awesome. So also in the Korean school system, while the kids generally go to school during the day, after school, as many of you may or may not know, they go to hagwons, they go to academies. And these can be for anything from English to Chinese to dance to art to music to math. There are so many different types of academies in Korea, I was shocked. In Canada, we just say like, oh, I'm taking dance lessons, or I'm taking soccer, which is what I did. But here, it's like additional school, a little bit different. You can get a teaching position at one of these academies. And I know there's a lot of, I don't want to say stigma, but there's a lot of different negative connotations that are associated with hagwons, and especially teaching English at hagwons. There's a lot of people that have said, oh, you're going to be working really long hours, you're going to be not working in a good condition, it don't have the same benefits as working as a public or private school. And I'm not saying that that's not true. I'm sure tons of people have had those experiences, and I'm not disregarding those experiences at all, but I'm just saying that that's not always the case. Before I got this position, back when I was a student in Korea, I studied at Ewha Women's University, and I met someone that was working at a hagwon, and she loved it. She had an amazing apartment. She was right in the middle of Seoul. English, surprisingly, actually wasn't even her first language. So if that's one of your concerns, that English isn't your first language, don't worry. I know for Talk and for EPIK, you need to be from, or I think a permanent resident of an English-speaking country, so Canada, the US, the UK, Australia, New Zealand. There's a bunch of places that I'm missing and I can't think right now because I'm sick. But if you are an English speaker, even if it's your second language, keep watching, because there are options for you. It's not just, it doesn't have to be your native language. Really, and honestly, in my opinion, having learned a second language, I would have much rather to learn Korean from somebody that had to learn it as a second language, because they know what struggles you're going through. For instance, when I was taking Korean classes at Ewha, there would be certain things that you cannot translate into English, or you cannot translate into Korean. And so there was that kind of divide between what my teacher understood from me and what I was trying to understand from my teacher. And because my teacher had never had to learn Korean as a second language, it was her native language, and she may have been educated on how to educate people in Korean. It's just, I kind of wish that I had had a tutor that was like, I don't know, from a different country and had learned Korean, and so they could teach me like, oh, by the way, here's some easy ways to remember this, here's what this actually means, and yeah, so anyways. So you can work at a hagwon. Getting a job at a hagwon is not as bad as people think it is, and I'm gonna go through the different ways you can do this in this video. So, let's go. Water break. I feel like Namtaehan in that parody that Winner did of The Heirs, where he just was sitting in the convenience store drinking a huge thing of water. Except I don't think I can finish this in one go. First things first. This video is mainly going to pertain to people that are about to graduate or who have graduated university with a bachelor's or beyond degree, because it is very hard to get a teaching job if you do not have a degree. I know in the past, maybe 10 years ago, it was a little bit easier to get a job in Korea if you didn't have a degree. I've had friends, brothers and sisters who came here and taught for 2 years and they were still doing their undergrad, but Korea has kind of upped its standards, so it's kind of difficult to do that now if you're not going through a program like TALK. For those of you who don't know, TALK is a program you can do while you're doing your degree. At my university, it's even considered a co-op. So you can do it for work experience. That's basically what it is. However, this video is gonna be for those that got that parchment or about to get that parchment like I was before I applied for this job, or kind of similar. Anyways. Okay, first things first. First things first. TEFL and TOEFL. I cannot stress this enough. Getting your TEFL certificate, which is Teach English as a Foreign Language, or your TOEFL, which is Teach English... It's teaching English. You can tell that I have my TEFL and not my TOEFL. Getting those two certificates is going to help you so much. They are really easy to get. So before I thought I was going to even start applying, I asked my parents for my grad present to pay for an online TEFL course for me. So my course, I think they were having a sale, was only $200, which I know seems like a lot of money, but there were TEFL and TOEFL classes that ranged from $200 to about $3,000, which is about my semester at my university. So I asked for that for my grad present, and I think it took me, once I got my act in gear, took me about, I want to say 2 to 3 weeks to finish it. So I got the 120-hour TEFL online certificate without classroom experience because I was finishing up my degree, I was doing directed studies, I was doing an internship, I was a VP for a Korean club at my school, so I was doing a lot and I didn't have time to do the in-class portion. And I wouldn't say that put me at a disadvantage, but if you have the time and if you have the money, doing the in-class portion, I would highly recommend it because there are schools, and they might be higher paying jobs that you would get them if you had the in-class experience versus not having the in-class experience. So yes, TEFL or TOEFL, very important. I think even now, if you disregard everything I say in this video and you want to do EPIK anyways, I think EPIK now even requires you to have some form of teaching English as a foreign or additional or second language certificate. They're really easy. You can find tons of resources online. I will link some resources down below. For my case, I did my TEFL certificate with a website that's I think based out of Canada. Canada. That's called mytefl.com, and it was very easy. I wouldn't say it was the most informative thing in the world. I feel like it could have been better. I definitely was able to just breeze through it, and it was kind of like high school. I finished it and then I was thrown into the real world, and I don't think it helped me at all, but no, I just really wanted to finish it before I graduated. And I think I started it in April and I graduated June 8th. So it's very easy to do. That website is really great because you can go at your own pace. The reason it's called 120 hours is because it's supposed to take you 120 hours to do it. Mine did not take me 120. I guess it did. There was a period of time where I really just wanted to get it done, and I think I spent like 5 hours every day on it, and I got it done. I finished it off in like 4 days, 3 to 4 days. Even if you don't have a lot of time, you can go at your own pace, which is really nice. And another thing that they have, which was really great, and I wasn't able to fully take advantage of, they have job recruitment services. So if you are wanting to get a job, they are affiliated with EPIK, with G-EPIK. It's not the one in Gyeonggi-do, which is the province where Seoul and Incheon and Gyeonggi-do? Yes. And Suwon and Bunong and all these areas, that's in Gyeonggi-do. I can't even speak Korean today. This one is in, I believe, 경상도. So that's like Busan, Daegu, Ulsan, Southeast Korea, where all those Bangtan boys are from. Hey. Except for Gwangju. It's not Gwangju. So if you're wanting to go teach where little old J-Hope is from, there's other resources that I will mention later. That's kind of why I decided to go with my TEFL. They had all those resources and they got back to me so quickly. I emailed them with millions of questions and they were so helpful. So that was really great. So that's my recommendation, where you should do your TEFL certificate, but there are tons of resources out there. If you're going to school right now, your university might even offer it. Mine did, but it was in with the linguistics department, so I had to take additional classes. So by the end of it, it would have cost me thousands of dollars to do it that way. So yeah, water break part 2. I was reading an online article of how to get rid of colds fast, and the first thing it said was, be hydrated. So went to the corner store and bought that, so. Okay, second thing, and I would recommend doing this even before you start applying to jobs, or you can do it as soon as you start applying to jobs, but it's the thing that takes the longest, at least as a Canadian. I don't know how it is in America, because granted, that's not my experience, but as a Canadian, you have to do a criminal record check for your visa, for going. So if you are wanting to go maybe 2 months from the time that you're applying, I would say get that criminal record check in even before. So even before I started applying, I did my research in getting a visa. The visa I have is E2-1. E2 and E2-1 are very, very similar, especially for the application of it. So look into that. I don't know a lot about visas. I've only had 2 different visas in my life, this one and the D2 visa, D4 visa, the student visa. Look into that as soon as you can, especially if you are dead set on going, because regardless, you're gonna find a job. I'm not gonna guarantee it, but if you have a university degree, if you are very passionate about this, and if you're wanting to come to Korea for reasons other than you just want to go to K-pop concerts, please don't apply if that's all you want to do. I mean, come to Korea, but children's education is going to be in your hands. But there's so many jobs out there, and if you really are dead set on getting one, and after I go through all the ways to get one or resources to try and find one, it's gonna be good, friend. Anyways, even if you don't apply for the criminal record check, look into how long it's gonna take. So for Canadians, I needed to get the fingerprint criminal record check, which is not normal in Canada. Usually it's just a background check. You do not need the one for working with minors, which I thought was bizarre, because I'm teaching children, but you just need the fingerprint one. So look into the RCMP or police office in the US. I don't know where you guys get your criminal record checks done. But find the nearest one that does that, and just look into how long it's gonna take, because for Canadians, I know ours need to be sent to Ottawa, need to be approved by the RCMP in Ottawa, stamped, and brought back. Canada, as you guys might know, is very big, so that takes a long time from Vancouver to Ottawa. But if you're living in Ottawa or like Toronto or anywhere in Ontario, you might be fine, maybe. So that's probably the biggest thing I'm gonna say, especially in terms of visa, because the visa application process is long. Done my hair up real big, beauty queen style, high heels off, I'm feeling alive.